This episode is brought to you by League Pickleball, your premier destination for high-quality pickleball paddles designed to elevate your game. At Anivia, they are committed to providing players across Canada with innovative, performance-driven pickleball paddles crafted for durability, precision, and ease of play. Irene and myself are currently using their Gen 3 Pro paddle, and if you head over to anivia.com and enter the code AGorman15, you get 15% off your order. That's AGorman15 at anivia.com. All right, on with the show. All right, welcome back, everyone. We got a lot of news this week, some CMPL stuff, minor league pickleball, but we're going to start with NAPP that me and Irene attended, and Vic Refton. How's it going, Vic?
Good. How's everyone? A little break, but finally we got more news into our Pickleball Canada community.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was to be expected with January, where there's not a lot going on up here, just because it's unless you got an indoor facility, there's not a lot of pickleball to play. But the NAPP did happen on February 8th and 9th, and me and Irene did go in and compete. And it was fun. There was some pretty good pros coming from the States, coming from Mexico, playing in there. I think we ended up having, but there was like a good 30 plus Albertans playing in that one. Something around that. I remember talking to Charity Christensen, who owns the YAG pickleball facility, and
I will say
a good 15.
I will say a good 15 at least. That's for sure. Probably not 30. 30 will be the overall with everyone, I guess. That would be my.
I might have overshot with that, but yeah, we had quite a few decent amount of players there, which was nice. So going into that right off the hop, Irene played with Mikkel Hartman, and they played really well. Like, this was the first time for both of them playing to like a strictly kind of pro event. Like, not like, if, for example, like the only other time Irene's played against pros is like the Women's Pro Challenge, which was more of like amateurs and pros playing together. And then, of course, when she ran into Kim Layton at Provincials last year, but everybody else she was playing with was still amateur level. So this was the first time really playing just a tournament where everyone you play against is a pro level player. And they held their own really well. The first game they played, they won it in 3 sets, but in 3 games. And the very first game, though, you could really tell they were a deer in the headlights, because they did get pickled 11-0, but then came back and won 11-8, 11-9. And then their next game, they went on to face the number 1 ranked team that was at the tournament, and that team ended up getting silver. They did lose in straight games. I think it was 11-6, 11-5, but wow, there was some really good rallies. I think, like, in my opinion, because I watched majority of the women's games that day, because I wasn't competing in men's for obvious reasons. But I want to say that was one of the more entertaining games, aside from the matchup between that team and Kim Layton and Anna Dashenko. Just there was the amount of rallies and hand battles in that. I thought Irene and Mikkel did a really good job holding their own, and definitely like earned if you want to call it respect points from some of the pros that were playing in there. So I was really happy with their performance in that.
Yeah, indeed. That was the match. Actually, I was reffing. They actually have a quite decent rally against each other. But I think that's the thing, that's the difference between a pro and a 5.0. The pro realized very quickly what was the witness between Aireen and Mikkel on some of the things, some of the speed ups and some of the defense from Aireen and Mikkel, and they exploited right away. Yes, and so that I think that would making a big difference in how quick be able to transition to attack against their weaknesses.
Yeah, exactly right. And like I said, the thing I really enjoyed from that was that one, they did a really good job. You could see they kind of caught the team off guard at first, but then yeah, the watching the pros being able to make those adjustments on the fly and attack the weaknesses. That you definitely saw the difference there. And like for Irene and Mikkel, like what a great learning experience. Okay, you know what you need to work on now because you saw what everyone was attacking, right? But then the fact that you were still able to kind of like hold yourself in there and make them work for the points still, I thought was a very good result. Their next game, you could see the kind of adrenaline dump of playing a team of that high caliber. So they didn't perform as well in their next game. They lost to the eventual bronze medalists in that one, but then they continued to play really well after that. But yeah, overall, like a good, I guess you could call it litmus test to see how they can hang. So like if I were to say now, if they were to go into another tournament, I think if as long as they make the adjustments they would need to make, I think they could push to get to go a little further. Now, if you run into one of those top teams again, there's still a significant gap, so you still might not win, but I think you could push it to like a 11-7, 11-8 type game, stuff like that. And who knows, even pull off a game win and then force it into a third game. So yeah, so really, really proud with how the two of them played.
Yeah, definitely good learning experience also for them how to play those higher level, and definitely I'll say they did a pretty good job on holding their grounds on that.
Yeah. Now for me and Irene,
do you want to skip that or
no, because this is good for anyone who is thinking about going into pro, who is roughly the same level as me, type of thing. So I'm realistically, like, I'm listed as a 4.5. I'm sitting at like a 4.7-8 or something on Duper right now. Me and Irene, the way we play as a team, we win 4 or 5 tournaments pretty consistently. Like it's like we don't really have like a what you'd call an insanely hard match up until about semifinals, finals type of thing. We're not destroying teams, but we're winning, pretty handily, like 11-5, 11-6, stuff like that. And then when we get to the finals, it will be like a 3-set, or we might pull off a straight game or a straight game win. But it's like a team that's, it's like 11-8, 11-9, 12-10 games like that type of thing, right? So the way we have been playing is, and a lot of people get like, a lot of amateur players give us credit for this. We play like a 50-50 split because Irene is so strong on her forehand, and because because I'm very good at resetting, we tend to reverse stack. So I'm on the right, Irene's on the left. And the eye opener for me in this was that not that the pro men players were, because it's funny, you watch it on TV, and because we always say this, the screen makes the ball look a little bit slower when you're watching it, whereas when you're there live, and then even more so when you're on the court and the ball's coming at you, the ball's moving really, really fast. So it's like whatever normal reaction time you think you have, minus about 1/4 of a second, or at least a half a second off that for how fast the ball's coming, even on the dinks as well. But what I noticed, and the realization I came to, was I need to be more aggressive. Because we used to say, oh, why is the guy hogging the court? Does he not trust his female partner? After playing against pro players, I've come to the understanding that it's not that the guy is hogging the court. He is cutting down angles and allowing his female partner to be able to, one, get up to the line, because 90% of the time, if you serve the ball or if you return the ball is coming back hard to your female partner, unless the guy is the one back and return, and then they'll try and keep him back, right? But I noticed whenever me and Irene got into a good rally, or were able to help hold the other team, the pro team, it was when I was on the left and she was on the right, because we did throw some switches in there to try and make an adjustments and stuff. But I still wasn't taking enough. Like I had maybe a couple times took like a 60-40 approach, whereas there was probably a few spots where I probably should have taken a 70-30 approach, just to let Irene get up to the line. And once she's there, we were holding our own pretty well once we got into dinking battles with the pros. Like, and we even won quite a few. But it was getting up to the line was the hard part. And me and stuff we could get away with when we're playing 4 or 5, or even when we're playing like a 4 or 5 and up division, like say at Provincials, or at like an open, like say in Red Deer or like Medicine Hat or wherever. Those are decisions that you can get away with playing other 4 or 5 players, even some 5-0 players. you're not going to get away with it with pros because their drives and their drop drives are so precise that if you don't cut off that angle, it is going right to your partner's feet. So like I went back and looked at the footage of our game against because the first team we played was the eventual silver medalist and was a very, very good team. There was a couple ones there where they would drive towards Aireen. I didn't think I was over enough to intercept, like to like poach and even just to block it to get it down. And normally I just let that go because Ireen's like, okay, she's right there. She's going to block it, put it back over. We're up at the line. Whereas these shots were so good that Aireen was getting it, but it was popping up a little bit. And then they would just come in. We might block a couple of those drives right at us, but then they basically finished us off in like 3 or 4 shots. So the biggest thing for me was like Aireen already showed that she could hold her own against the female pros and she was still doing a good job in the mix. But the problem was I wasn't enough of a threat for them to worry about me enough. Right. So they would still go to Aireen and they knew Aireen was strong and she might, get a couple shots on the other female, but her being that strong as a female and then me not being enough of a threat was the issue. Right. So like, they would still kind of avoid me a little bit because it was like they didn't want me to kind of have it click and like, oh, I need to get my ass into the game and contribute because there was a couple times
they're good at isolating. Those pro, they're super good at isolating. In my referee perspective, you can really see who's gonna win. The battle is gonna be between the males. Whose male's gonna be dominating on those teams. As soon as that male is dominating on those points, that team is gonna win.
Yeah, exactly right. And I didn't insert myself enough, and so that's like, so now we've been what, a week separated from that. So like I know at club recently, like I told, it was funny, I told people I was playing with Kate, you're gonna notice me being a little bit more aggressive right now because it's a mindset I want to get myself in. It's not that I'm trying to ball hog and I don't trust you. It's like there was certain shots when I went back and looked at the footage, it was just like, oh, I should have poached that, or I should have stepped in, and even if I just changed the spin or changed the direction of the dink, right? Because there was like a spot there where I think Aireen and the female went back and forth like 3 or 4 times and nothing, like neither of them could kind of get the upper hand. But I was like, okay, if I would have stepped in and done one, whether it was back to the female or whether it was to the male's backhand, at least change the flow and see if we can capitalize from there, right? So that's my biggest takeaway from that. Like I think the score in the 2 matches or in the 2 games against that team was like 11-2, 11-1. Like we didn't score. Like we couldn't score. We stopped them a bunch of times from scoring because I think there was one point there we got froze at like 4-2 for like a good 6-7 minutes. Right, we would stop them, they would stop us. Our biggest problem was when we were serving, we couldn't get up to the line enough because
you're stuck in that transition basically.
Yeah. Right. And it was more so it wasn't even our first drop or like our first drive was the problem. It was me coming in, cutting down the angle, because the moment we did a drive, now if we did a good drive, they would block it, but then we'd be able to do a 4th shot drop, we'd get up to the line. But if we did like a drop and it was a little high, instead of me being able to come over and coming over and cutting down the angle, I just trusted Aireen to get it. And then all of a sudden it was just like bang, 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 right? It was just constant bombardment. And then like I'd start to cheat over, I'd maybe get one, but then they'd come over and they'd push me back off to the side, right? And Ireen's drops are normally really good, but against these pros, if your drops off even by a little bit, they are very good at keeping that ball back on you, right? So the big takeaway for that is if I want to keep assisting Aireen, because obviously where Aireen is with women's, she's starting to push through that barrier for the pro level spots. Like she's right there. Like not where I would call like she's not finishing like top 10 in the PPA, but I'm talking like pushing that, breaking into that barrier of getting into the pro level. She's right there for women's. If I want to help her get to that for mixed, I have to make myself more with it. I was clearly still a 4-5 or like maybe a 5-0 at best playing against pros in that mix. So like, and I'm not, I know this sounds kind of like I'm shitting on myself. It's just, it's understanding the difference, right? Yeah. Like, because like I said, like when we play 4 or 5 tournaments, we look really, really good. right? Like, so it's like I'm thinking I'm making the right decisions. Okay, yeah, let Irene have that. She's got that. I don't need to cut it off, like, because she's going to return it and she's going to get it, right? Or whatever. But it's like now it's like, hey, no, I need to cut that angle off with a block or with a poach or whatever to allow her to come up, and then she can work in her shots that she's really good at. I can work in my shots that I'm really good at and go from there. So yeah, it's just me being more aggressive. And so that's a mindset I have to get in, because before that, like, as Victor can attest to, because he's played against me, I am a very reset, defensive orientated person.
Yes.
I play really well with someone who's very aggressive. Like when I play men's, if I'm with a very aggressive player, we look insanely good, because I'm literally there as, yeah, I can, like, if we get up to the line, I can do like the good setup shots, I can counter attack, and I can be offensive from the line. It's that transition aggressiveness is what I need to work on.
Yeah, definitely. Like recognizing you need to step up. Basically, that's what is important. I think what you can do to work on that. That's just my experience. So how I was become a very aggressive player now is because I play a lot of, we call ladders, or sometimes we call duper ladders, which you all sometimes will have a weaker player that is going to be with you, because you're rotating in that group, right? And suddenly you need to, because you want to win, you have to win all the matches in order to move up to the higher group. And in order to do that is how you are able to help that weaker player to move up, or to avoid that person getting hit, and you force everyone to the balls coming to you to finish the point. And that could be a deal breaker that you can try in your club. Do some sort of ladder, so you can force yourself into this mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, and I know our club is starting to introduce some ladder stuff now. Right now, it's more of the lower levels, because in Peace River, we got a really small club. Like, I think we have 50 members. We have a very small group up at the top, which me and Irene are a part of. And we only have, like, if everyone shows up, I think we have 8. And that's like ranging from 4-0, like starting 4-0 to like 4-5 to 5. Right. With those 8, I think there's only like 3 of us above 4-5 right now, if you're looking at duper scores type of thing. So basically what I started to do was, like, anytime I was with one of the, like, closer to like a 4-0 player, I started forcing myself to do that. Okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to cut that off, I'm going to do this. So, like, I started noticing myself do it. And now, obviously, because it's something you're focusing on, sometimes you over poach and you put yourself in a bad position. But, like, I apologize ahead of you guys. I'm trying to make myself more aggressive. So if I poach something I normally wouldn't poach, I apologize. Like, especially if it's a bad poach and then all of a sudden they stick it into the open court on me, I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to get into the mindset, and then the reads will come as I work on it, type of thing. Right. So
yeah.
But no, our groupers are really good. They appreciate that, and the fact that they like when we're all pushing to make each other better. So we got a good group of people that we play with here. And then, of course, me and Irene are trying to make extra trips out to Edmonton, so we play different people and play some high level people up there and stuff. So yeah, it's something to work on. But
no, that's good.
Yeah, all in all, I enjoyed the experience. Because it's funny, like, I liked this experience better than when I went and played against some pro players at the qualifiers for the CMPL last year, because you were constantly switching partners. You had to fit one, you had to figure out, okay, what does this person like to do? What do I like? How am I going to mesh with this person? Whereas because it was me and Irene, we already know what we like to do and how we play together. So because this was already a solid partnership, it was easier to kind of see, okay, this is what we need to work on. This is what we need to do differently, because you already knew how you regularly played.
Yep, definitely. And it's definitely a good experience for you to figure out what you need, what you're missing from your game, and what you need to do in during the game, how to transition from your defense to offense. And that the other problem is, because you have an Aireen, which is a very strong female, in your mind you say, I just need to sit. And that's I think that was also something that's going to be an eye opener to you. It's like, oh, even I have a strong female, I need to be strong regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because it was funny, because, like, because we like I said, we play normally, what we used to do was 50-50. because she was so strong, I didn't have to worry about, okay, if they want to pick on her, fine, then, you know, pick your poison type of thing, right? But now you're playing pros. If they notice that, okay, well, this guy is not a threat, so we can start pushing the female player over even more, get him to kind of cheat over and take the court, but then we're going to make him pay for it because he's not stepping in and making us change our shot. We're kind of eventually just working, because as good as Aireen is, if two people are picking on her the entire time, it's a 2-against-1 scenario. Eventually they're gonna get her in a mistake, or they're gonna get her with a really good shot, right? So yeah, it's me making myself more of an offensive threat and being more aggressive. Now, that being said, we did have some of our Canadian pros taking part. So like Brad Chapman was there, Kim Layton was there, Anna Dashenko was there, Chris Elaine, Ava Weeks, Joelle Pelche was there. Some of our aspiring young guns were there, Brady and Jacob, of course, and then Jorge and Ali were there as well, because they're the pros at YEG. Brad Chapman played with Armand from West Vancouver. I don't think it was a good pair up. I don't think their styles mix well. There was a lot of miscommunication going on the court. Armand is a very aggressive player, but because of how Brad plays, I always think Brad should be on the left, even though he, like, everyone lulls Brad as like this defensive stalwart, but he does it through counterpunching and being offensive at the same time. You know what I mean? So you need to have someone with him who is very similar to that, or will let Brad kind of take most of the court. And Armand clearly is a very aggressive player who wants to take like an 80.
He's actually over poaching quite a bit. I can kind of see, like, he plays super well. Armand plays super well in the mix because of the aggressiveness that he needs to be. But when you're playing in men's, you need to have, we call it control aggressiveness, because the men's, if you're speeding up unnecessarily, you're gonna get smoke. There's no coming back, unfortunately. Versus mix, if you speed up maybe a little higher to the lady, you still may be able to get away from it, but not in the men's. And this is what happened basically.
Yeah, right. So like, and I got to watch one of their matches, and like, probably if you're looking at skill sets, a team they probably, if you were just looking at skill sets on paper, they should have beaten, but the way their styles clash caused them to lose. I want to say it ended up being like a 21 to like 19, because it kept on going back and forth in a single game to 15. But it was a win by 2. But if you looked at the skill sets on paper, they should have won, but because of the styles clash, that's where they ran into problems with that. Brad didn't end up playing in mix because he was supposed to be teamed with Casey Rogers, but I think Casey pulled out last minute for some reason.
And he was using, and also Brad was using his switching back to Selkirk instead of people thinking about that it's going to be Yola. He was using the Vanguard Pro, which is a very soft paddle, which is like his game. I kind of understand, but at the same time, I felt he was lacking that punching power with this paddle, unfortunately, which is kind of normal. This paddle is a very, very soft paddle. We'll get into it. That paddle matters at the end, but for me, I kind of expect he needs something just a little bit more powerful. Maybe that 008 could be a good fit for him.
Yeah, and talking to some people, he's still kind of looking like he's not sold 100% on that Vanguard. So he's basically trying to find a paddle that works well with his game, and I think he's still experimenting at this point. Then we have Kim Layton. She teamed up with Anna Dashenko for the women's. I think they basically, with the exception of at semis and in the finals, who they ended up beating and winning gold, they pretty much, I don't want to say steamrolled everyone, but it was clear who was going to win the match, type of thing. When you got two, and for those of you who don't know, Anna and Kim are both like 6 feet tall, or if not six, just under 6 feet. Kim was playing the right, Anna was playing the left. Anna is a very, very good, has a very, very good forehand. She won national singles. I know she won in Regina. I don't know if she went and played in Halifax or not, but yeah, 2 years ago in Regina, she won women's singles at nationals. So very, very good forehand, and you could see it between the two of them. Like Kim was literally just a wall and being able to hammer stuff. Anna just with her forehand just hammering away. So the team that they played in the finals, when they faced them in the semifinals, it went to 3 sets, but then in the finals, it was a straight set victory for Kim and Anna. And at that point, you could tell they kind of had the other team figured out at that point.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Well, yeah, I did ref that final matches. Actually, at the second game, there was a little close. It seems like the silver medal team figure out a little bit of their weaknesses, but they did adapt it fairly quickly at the mid of the second game, and then they just steamrolled it after that.
Yeah. And then I know Kim played, I can't remember who Kim played with in mix, but I know they didn't make it to medal rounds, but some of these these pro mix teams were very, very, very good.
She was playing again with the guy that was Jorge was playing at the PPA Vegas. That was the one that he was playing. He's a very steady player. But however, I did ref him a couple of matches before the mix. For some reason, he was making a lot of mistakes during this tournament. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a temporary thing. He was to be honest with you, they have to travel all the way from US to Canada. So maybe they're not completely getting used to the weather and the condition at this point. That could be the reason. But he was supposed to be a pretty solid player too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the last NAPP, he had won either mixed or he had won the men's, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
Yeah. And then we had Chris Lane and Ava Weeks. They actually played very, very, very well. They did end up getting knocked out by the eventual bronze medalist, and that game ended up being fairly tight. But I was really impressed with Chris Lane's play. And then Ava was kind of just like a rock solid wall there. Like she still needs to be a little bit more offensive. But as far now, if she's playing with a very aggressive male right now, her being kind of that rock wall right there suits her. I would like to see her be a little bit more aggressive with her attacks.
Yeah, definitely. I was very pleased with how Chris Lane would play this time. He actually really settled down, and he was actually making the right decision, a lot of right decision to win his team a lot of points. But if Ava can be a little bit slightly more aggressive, that could maybe tip the balance winning that game.
Yeah. And then Joel played well, but I think it was more of just partner clashing with that because he wasn't playing with a regular partner. Jacob and Brady, though, played very, very well. They actually knocked off a couple of teams in the men's pro division. Really impressed with how they played together. Jorge and Ali played well. I think they originally beat in mix. They beat Anna Dashenko and her partner originally, but they did end up getting beat. It's funny because you see some matches and they look like they're like on fire, and then other matches it's like they're just not quite locked in. It's very hard to hold when I watch the two of them play.
Yeah, I just feel like sometimes Jorge went for that Instagram shot rather than actually go for the high percentage shot. So and that could make a big difference in the pro. Like I agree that sometimes he has to go for it, but he might get away with against like a 4-0, 4-5 like us. But against pro, you might not gonna get away all the time with those. They will recognize it, and then they just put you in a very difficult situation. And unfortunately, I did see a couple of shots that he was trying to do overdo it, kind of thing.
Yeah, but yeah, overall, a very good tournament. There was a lot of entertaining games. It was a little cold inside the egg, but other than that, and then the only other thing was the ball they were using was the Churco ball. The Churco ball is very, very similar to the Onyx. My biggest complaints with that is it tends to sail a little bit. Like it's a really light ball, right? Now if you like, so it was funny because when we found out we were using that, I actually swung by the egg on the Friday night and purchased a couple of balls for Irene and Mikkel to practice with. Because they like Mikkel, well, like me and Irene normally train with either the Selkirk or Franklin, And then same thing with Mikkel. It's either like the Selkirk or the Franklin, right? And like the Franklin's a lot heavier. The Selkirk is also a lot heavier, and the Selkirk is, I think the Selkirk is still the fastest ball.
Yeah, it technically it's the fastest, except we're not using a lot the Vulcan ball that was in the PBA.
I haven't used
that will be even faster, but none of them is using in Canada. So
yeah, exactly right. And the Selkirk is heavier, so if you get a really good drive, that ball will drop down into the back of the court. Whereas I find you slightly mishit that Churko or that Onyx ball, it just sails up, and you better be ready for either it to go out or that to be coming an overhead to be coming back at you.
Yep.
But yeah, other than that, really good tournament. Oh my god, the online viewing, the picture looked really good. There was no audio at all, so you couldn't even hear like just the ball getting hit. But other than that, the picture was really good. If you want to go on the NAPP YouTube channel, you can see Aireen and Mikkel's match against that #1 ranked team. You can also see me and Ireen's match against that silver medal team where we do lose 11-2, 11-1. And you'll see what I'm talking about where I'm not being aggressive enough. If you want to check in on those. But yeah, overall, really good. Anything else to add to that, Vic? Because you got to ref quite a few of those matches.
Yeah, in my referee perspective, all the game has been running pretty smoothly, except the mixed bronze medal match that has a little bit of curl between some player. But other than that, I think was pretty smooth sailing. Other than that, I think they're pro player. They know each other pretty well, so they like line calling and stuff like that. They are most of them are pretty generous. So yeah, it's pretty good.
All right. So moving on, we'll cover this one really quick. Alberta Provincials have been announced. They're going to be in Medicine Hat on July 10th to the 13th. Medicine Hat's a really nice facility. I don't think I'm going to be able to attend this year though. One, it's a 12-hour drive for me, and two, I have a bunch of stuff going on at that time. And Vic, I don't think you're able to attend this year either.
No, not me neither. I have a conference in Montreal for a dental conference down there. That was exactly the same time, so I just can't go, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I kind of had to choose. Like it's funny. I had stuff going on around that week, but then I also kind of had to choose because it's a 12-hour drive for me. And those of you who've been listening to the podcast, I now, because of my new job, I'm doing like, I need RTO, or I need to use like annual leave to get more than 2 or 3 days off. So because it's a 12-hour drive, I would have to use almost annual leave to go to that, because it turns it into, instead, I know it's a 3-day event, but it turns into like a 5-day trip for me.
Yeah, it's a long drive, definitely for you.
So basically, me and Aireen sat there and decided, okay, do we want to do provincials or do we want to do nationals? Because I'm going to have to use annual leave for either of them. I'm only going to use one because we have a family reunion planned in October. So that's my other week of annual leave for this year. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do nationals because that's 5 days of guaranteed pickleball. I get more bang for my buck.
Sure.
Right. So unfortunately, I was hoping it was going to be like and this is not a shot at Medicine Hat Pickleball Club. I love the facility there. I like the courts. But I was really hoping it was going to be at the Rays this year, just because it's all indoor. You don't have to worry about weather. And for me, then I could have made that a 2-day trip.
Yeah, much closer for you too.
Right. So that's the only thing with that one. I'm hoping lots of people sign up for it. It's still one of the provincials is still like the biggest event in Alberta. We usually have almost 700 plus athletes at it all the time. I'm hoping that just because it's in Medicine Hat, we don't see a big drop off of like our Edmonton players, and even some of the Red Deer players don't like driving that far. I get annoyed when Red Deer players say, "Oh, I don't want to drive anywhere." I'm like, "Come on, you're in the middle. Don't complain." Like,
yeah,
right. But I can understand why some Edmonton players will, because even for them, that's like what, an 8-hour drive-ish almost.
Yeah, as a minimum.
Right. So yeah. So like, I understand that. I understand why if no one from my club ends up going, because like I said, 12.5-hour drive from Peace River. So yeah, it's a little bit far. So, but but yeah, looking forward. I'm hoping it's a good turnout, and Medicine Hat always puts on a good event, so I'll be excited to see what happens with that.
Yeah. And next thing maybe I want to mention, apparently the Western, not just Western regional, all the regional may be actually being canceled. Is that right?
Yes, I looked on Pickleball Canada's website. I can't remember where on the website it was, but they're all regionals now are getting canceled. So Pickleball Canada is just backing nationals and provincial events. They don't really give a big reason why. But I'm going to go with it's mostly Eastern Canada's fault, and this isn't a shot at you guys in Eastern Canada, or if you want to call it Central, because Western Regionals always has a good turnout. It was always like 500 plus athletes, regardless of where it was held. Right. But I know last year because is the one in Ontario and Quebec called Central, or what is that one called?
It was Central at Laval, Quebec, which is a little outskirt from Montreal, just an hour.
And that only had like what 200 athletes last year.
200 stretching. It's probably 100 something.
Right, and that's because of I want to say that's because of issues with Pickleball Ontario and Pickleball Quebec, or other reasons. I know. We'll get into that next podcast, but there was a big shakeup in Pickleball Ontario.
Yep.
And you'll probably, if you want to go to Pickleball Canada, you'll see the announcement for that, and also Pickleball Ontario will have that announced. But we'll go into that. That's going to be a long talk, so we're going to save that for the next podcast. We're going to be switching to bi-weekly, guys, so you'll get more content from us that way. But yeah, so I'm guessing because not good turnouts for the Central and not as great turnouts for the East, because I want to say the East wasn't too bad, but it's still like when that's the most populated area of Canada and you can't even eclipse 200, it's a waste of Pickleball Canada resources. Right. And I know the resources aren't amazing. Like Pickleball Canada still needs to work on like how much money they're giving, how much are they helping out with sponsors and stuff like that. And, providing cash prizes for the open divisions is what is still a big issue. Right. But it's a waste of it's a waste of time if this is supposed to be a big regional event and you're only getting 200 athletes, especially like I said, the Westerns was like 500, 600, like almost matching national level, right? So like I said, I went to the Western Regionals like 3 times out of the last 4 years, and it was always a massive event in Western Canada. So, and the fact that Ontario has like, was it 5 times the population, right? The fact that you can't even get over 200 athletes to that's sad. That's sad. So that I can understand why they're canceling all regional events and just saying, "Kate, we're doing nationals. We're going to help you out with provincials, and that's it."
Yeah, it's too bad. Well, more to follow to what's going on.
Yeah. Minor League Pickleball is coming to Canada. Let's go. Super stoked.
Finally.
Once again, we have Full Send Pickleball to thank for that. Excuse me there. The team from there, that's the same team that's been helming the Minor League Pickleball in China, Duper in China. That's Yui and his team. So yeah, this is awesome that we're getting this. It's going to be, it's the brand. It's going to have sponsors coming with it. It's just more events for people to play. And it's going to act as, and Victor has this on good info. It's going to be a feeder league for the CNPL.
Yep, definitely. So they actually have 2 kickoff events. So if you want to take note, so on April 5th, they will start on the west side from in Burnaby, BC, in IPOP, and then in the east they have on the April 26th at the High Sport Vaughan Center, which they'll be opening very soon in Concord, Ontario. So those are the new kickoff event. You can already sign up on pickleballtournament.com if you want to. Why it is important to have actually minor league pickleball for people that does not know. Minor league pickleball in USA is actually a very big thing, right? So people that a little just a quick synopsis of the minor pickleball is basically what the MLP, so the Major League Pickleball is, but geared towards the amateurs. So how they do make teams, they actually use duper combined duper scoring. So they actually usually have a different category: 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and 22. Obviously, the 20 and 22, we're gearing towards the 5-0 and 5-0 plus. So we're talking that those players that's in the high advanced player that could actually move up to the pro level scene. Obviously, if it's going for side out scoring for at 21 points. There, if you don't have a duper, that's not a big problem. They will assign you a duper if you put up a team in there, and they always guarantee that you have at least 6 games, at least 3 match each on that 6 games. What is also important, we'll see in Canada if they're gonna do whatever that US has been doing. So in the US, each event will earn you points like as a player individually. So if you win a lot of games, obviously you'll have more points, and you can see you'll have a higher ranking. And then those points matters because at the minor league national, obviously the people that are going to pull up the team, they want to pick up the highest people having the highest point during those minor league, and they have a pretty generous prize money. So the winning team is winning $3,500, and they have a chance to represent their country to play in the Doha Championship. It has to be determined at this point, but that was currently has been advertised. And also, some of the minor league pickleball team are actually sponsored by the Major League Pickleball team. So the DC Pickleball team and also the St. Louis Shock, that they're actually trying to pull from that minor league pickleball talent to put them into the Major League Pickleball players list. So that's why it's very important. And in Canada, we already see a little bit of trend using the minor league pickleball to actually the feeder for the CNPL, so in the Canadian pro pickleball scene. So that's why the minor league pickleball is very important in Canada, because that could be able to generate more higher level players.
Exactly, yeah. And like the more tournaments you have, the more chances you have to develop players, the more chances you have to play other really good players. So it's just a culmination. I can't even speak anymore. Cultivation of all these great things coming in, and like I said, because you're getting the MLP/minor league brands coming in, you already have the backing with that as well. You have the known name, you have that, so that's going to draw more sponsors in, provides more money for events, provides all this other stuff. So that feeding into the CNPL, obviously, we won't see it right away this year. Maybe possibly even like halfway through next year. But the more money that comes in, the more money the CNPL has through the feeder stuff and that. So that will allow the CNPL to also push its boundaries. Like we're already seeing an extra event this year for CNPL, but hopefully we can even see it grow more than that, right? And then if you can developing local talent, like if all of a sudden, say, for example, West Coast Wolverines, there's a couple of minor league teams saying around Edmonton area, and there's one player performing super well. Say if they have like an injury come up, well, we have all the stats, we have all this stuff of this player performing well in this same format that we play at. Let's call them up and pull them up onto the team to cover for that. And then who knows, that person might play well enough that then they stay on the team.
Definitely.
So with the CNPL in that as well, so CNPL is we're at the very end of the free agency period. A lot of the teams are keeping everything close to the chest. There has been no official announcements on anybody getting signed yet. The cutoff date is February 19th, and teams can only sign a maximum of 3 players, right? So on the next podcast, we'll probably be reacting to who the teams have signed, what's the possible combinations we're going to be working with, and things like that. So really stoked for that. So yeah, so stay tuned for the next podcast, especially for CMPL news, because you're going to see where all the big names are going, or which big names haven't been signed and they're going to be playing at the showdowns, right? So also showdowns are coming up in March, so make sure you get your teams in. Me and Irene are going to be going to the one in Vernon. We're still trying to get our team assembled. It's taking a little bit more convincing than I would like, but also, I thought I had a guy signed up, but he's still a guy ready to go, but he's still recovering from a knee injection. So,
yeah, I think there's
Looking
also
at you,
one
Vic.
more. Yeah, there's one more news actually from that March showdown in Montreal. It was
Oh,
supposed
yes.
to be a Seni Sport Brossard. Now they actually changed it in to another location actually in the island of Montreal instead. So for people that has been signing up for those ones, just know there's a location change on that one.
Yeah, exactly. And then seeing how we are talking about minor league pickleball, which stems from the MLP. The MLP this year is changing their format. And they're stepping away from the rally scoring and moving into the regular traditional scoring sign out. I'm not a big fan of this decision. And the guy came. I watched the interview where the guy explained the reason why. It has to do with kind of like betting sponsor reasons. It's I
Yeah.
guess the scoring in traditional side out is easier to keep track of. So if you have people betting on matches saying like, okay, this person like was responsible for X amount of points and stuff like that, it's easier to keep track of with side out scoring. My issue with this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think there's another reason too. Is because the best player in pickleball does not like it.
Oh, cry me a river.
You know,
Jesus.
which is Ben Johns and Colin
God,
Johns.
That's annoying.
That's a rumor. Don't quote me on it.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of Connor McDavid saying he doesn't like something in the NHL, but I'm just like, oh, come on.
Yeah. So I think that was the reason. I think yes, the betting is one part, but the second part, the best player in pickleball does not like it either.
Well, it's not really helping him right now. He hasn't been winning aside from playing with Anna Lee. He's not winning men's even with his switch up in partners. So whatever. But yeah, it was funny because when they posted this originally, I actually commented on Instagram, and a lot of people liked my comment. But because I think it was the Dink or the Kitchen, I can't remember which one posted, or is that the same one? But either way, like my comment on it is like, why? Like I like how PPA is traditional pickleball. Like that's cool, and that's where you can team up with whoever you want. So like, yeah, you have the number 1 and number 2 female playing together, and like, yes, they're stomping everybody, whatever, right? But it's traditional pickleball. Like you're watching that for that. But the whole point of the MLP is one, you're getting matchups of players that don't normally play together because of course people are getting drafted, getting signed, right? And with the rally scoring, it allows an underdog team to have a chance to do the upset. Like it creates that extra tension. But the whole point, and that was the whole point. The MLP, like if you watch the MLP, there's a lot more kind of trash talk. There's a lot more kind of pandering to the crowd. Like it's kind of like it's the more flashy version of pickleball, right? And like for me, that's fine. Like if you like regular pickleball, if you like PPA, go watch PPA. If you like MLP and you want to watch that, go watch MLP.
Yeah, it's almost like totally two audience, basically. And
yeah, right. And so like I like watching both. I love the stuff that comes with regular pickleball. I also enjoy watching the stuff, especially at the pro level, with the rally scoring. Like, and it was funny because when I first tried rally scoring for myself, I wasn't a big fan of playing it myself. Now I've gotten used to it now, and I understand and I see the different strategies that you come up with now for that. But for me, like, I'm like, let them exist. Like, I know they're owned by basically the same company now, but I'm like, let them exist on their own thing and let them have that thing that differentiates them from each other. Because now you're just going to turn into MLP, and it's just going to be like watching PPA, except now if you have a team that has a really strong male team, you're not going to see that other team pull up an upset if they make a couple mistakes, because now they can make those couple mistakes, and it might only cost them a side out.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. And me neither. I didn't really like that move because that the sole existence of side out scoring is because of the MLP, right? But right now you just pull out of it. So means what is the future of the side out scoring, right? And it kind of almost like stop the progression of it. Like even like this year at the on the USAP rulebook, they also included the side out scoring into the rulebook, and now the pros is not playing anymore. I have a feeling might be the side scoring may be a thing of the past.
Well, we'll see, because I'm interested to see if like ratings drop, or if people don't tune in as long. Because that was the other thing. That was the other thing with rally scoring. It's, you know how long the match is going to take, roughly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right?
well,
Like, so
you know what's the maximum time is going to take, right? So therefore, it's easy to schedule your matches versus a traditional side out scoring that can go forever.
Yeah, exactly, right. And like, especially if you're someone who is like, even if you're a casual watcher of matches, if you only have a certain amount of time set aside, okay, well, do I want to watch the finals of MLP where I know this is only going to be maximum 2 hours? Whereas, do I want to watch Championship Sunday on PPA where this might take 8 hours? Depending on how these rallies go, right? And depending on how like one team grinds out another team, right? Like, they're both amazing stuff to watch, but if you only have a certain amount of time, right?
Yeah,
you're gonna tune in for that, right? And then, like I said, like I like the team aspect. I like the fact that you can't overstack a team. Like, you are not going to have Ben Johns and Annalie Waters playing there. You're not going to have Ben Johns and Skarsgård or whatever, or whoever you want like that playing together. You're going to have a really strong player, another like strong player, but not necessarily in the same level, right? So it also creates possibilities of future team ups that way. Yeah. But the problem is now is if you're going to go in there and you have this kind of slightly weaker team, now you might get smoked and there's no chance to come back. Like, unless you manage to somehow turn the tides and grind out a win. Whereas before it was like, yeah, they're going to freeze and then we can, like, if we're down, but we can freeze and then battle our way back type of thing, right? Or like we might catch them with a couple of errors and then all of a sudden we're only 1 point behind instead of 3 or 4 points behind, right? So it always gave the ability of this, there might be an insane comeback. And if you want a really good example, look at the finals of the CMPL last year. The final game, the Brewers were up. Now, like the Lions were up 2-1. The Brewers were up in that final game. What was it, 20-15?
Something like that,
or like 19-15, and then the Lions just go on this run and come back and win. I think it was like 21-20 or 21-19 or whatever it was, right? And win the whole thing. I'm like, if that was regular pickleball, I don't think that comeback happens in that game.
Definitely,
right? Because it would give the Brewers so many more outs to make a mistake, right? Because it's like, okay, well, we sided them out. Now it's our serve. We can be a little bit more loosey goosey and then we're not gripping our paddles tight because one mistake might get them within 1 point. Well, now one mistake is only going to lose serve, right? Exactly. So it creates that extra tension. Like I said, I love playing regular style pickleball. Like, when I go to tournaments, I prefer that. But then again, I like playing that grind out game, and I like the fact that, yeah, I might be down 8-2. But if I grind this out properly, I can come back and win. And and I've done that. And me and Irene have done that before. We've been down 8-1 before and come back and won 11-8. Right? If you're playing rally scoring, that ain't happening. But mind you, it probably wouldn't be 1-8. Then there was probably a bunch of side outs that happened there. So it's more than likely it's like 11. It's like 15-11 or 15-12, right? So now I do like going and playing team style rally scoring as well. Me and Irene have done that before as well, right? But like, it's a different mindset. And then plus, like, you're sitting on the sides and you're cheering for your teammates when they're playing and stuff, and you're just hyped the whole time. So like, that's the thing for me with that is like, okay, like, and I'm happy the CMPL is staying with rally scoring, and I'm hoping minor league, and we said minor league when it comes to Canada is sticking with rally scoring so far, or is it switching over to side out?
The minor leagues is still in that it's still the sorry, I'll get my word right. It's the minor league currently is still at the rally scoring at this point.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I would rather that for now. Like, and for minor league, why not? Like, especially if these are amateurs, they're not getting paid to be there. Like, so like, if they're not going to get paid unless it's like, prize money at the end of the thing, like, then they have set times. Okay, I only need this much time off to come play in this event, right? So it's just one of those things. But we got lots of more paddle issues. What's going on?
Well, if you have followed the paddle industry news, obviously one of the biggest news is the rhombus ripple is not coming out anymore. So what is going on? So I see Andrew already laughing at the background because that's my main paddle, right? Obviously. So what's going on with this? So rhombus ripple, if everyone remember, let's pull that paddle out. Okay. So this paddle basically, the rhombus ripple is the strongest paddle to rival the mod. I already talk about that one, but a lot of people obviously are also complaining is too hot, right? And that's the only paddle that's not going to be delisted this summer on 2025. Also, the rhombus ripple has a lot of different version. There's the alpha, there's the beta, and then there is a fixed beta, and then they have we call the production model. So what's going on is the production model, so the one that they're gonna sell outside to all the general market. That's the one that never be able to get listed. People were saying is delisted. That's wrong because the paddle never get out to the market, so it never get even listed on USAP. Okay, what was going on is that Rhombus said that they had a written confirmation from USAP that the production model was passed all the tests. If you remember this year when the mod, the gearbox, and the ProKinetics Black Ace will be sunsetting in July 1st, is because of their new test called the PB core test, which we call the deflection testing. So Rhombus thought that they have all the written confirmation. Okay, I'm good to go. I'm going to be launching this paddle on the 31st of January. USAP came back saying, well, wait a minute. We didn't actually pass that paddle. So Rhombus, I will say on the 30th of January, overnight send those production model to USAP to reconfirm their passing the test. However, those paddle did not pass because they are actually too strong. The magic number is the 0.43 deflection test, right? Those production model apparently was going over 0.44. Now the problem is, who is at fault? Who is going on? Some rumors said that the Rhombus got a written confirmation actually by a company that USAP is using, which we call the Element US Space and Defense Lab, which USAP is using for all their deflection testing. But any company, anyone can send a paddle to them to do a testing. But apparently Rhombus might not have done it through USAP. So USAP never saw that paddle apparently compared to them. Now what's going on? So basically, people that has the beta, like me, this paddle is still on USAP approved list. So it means you can still use it. So which one is the one that is not passed? So the paddle actually on below, I don't have it. I don't have those ones. On the below, it will written PB core test pass 0.43. That's the paddle that's not legal, but it never really got to the market. So only some paddle reviewer got it. No one else got that paddle out of the out. So technically, it's not worry. Will this paddle be released to the mass market? I really doubt so, unless Rhombus really tuned down the power on this paddle at this point. So that's a little bit of a shame, because this is one of my main paddle, and I really liked it. Not is very easy to control, but if if you're able to control it properly, this paddle is the strongest in the market. How then? There's another paddle got delisted. That was a little more silent. Everyone was a little more silent about it because no one thought that paddle gonna get delisted too. So what's this paddle? I'll show you. This one, the Chorus Fire. The Chorus Fire. From people that might know by this company, is the Chorus Shapeshifter that they came with, and now they have a slightly stronger paddles called the Chorus Fire. They actually have, we call the titanium mesh, which is the PET, so it's not real titanium. And so they have what we call a fire core that has a little bit more pop into there, but it's nowhere near the mod, the Jola 3S, or even the Rhombus Ripple, because one of the paddle reviewer actually checked by using their metric. That paddle PB core test is like at 0.33, which is way below the limit of the 0.43. So for some reason, USAP delisted that paddle, not mentioning to anyone, not even mentioning to the manufacturer. USAP, the good thing is USAP actually admitted that there was an error in their part. So, and then they're able to talk to Matt, which is a company, the owner of Chorus, and then they're able to finally settle down, saying no, that paddle is okay. Yeah, so now it's back to the USAP approved list. So you're like, what is going on, USAP? Like, why you can keep delisting and listing without having any statement out of it, like a preemptive warning, something like that. So, like, for me, that is a paddle geek that follows so closely on the paddle, I will understand what's going on. But for other Joes into the market, no one knows what's going on. Like, why is that the listing? Okay, this is a Rhombus beta model, but this is a production model. No one will know that. So, like, USAP needs to have a little bit more consistency on it, because that's what lead me to the next segment, the UPAA testing and the USAP testing. If you go to one of the paddle reviewer channels called the John Q Pickleball channel, he actually visits the UPAA testing lab and the USAP testing lab. So far, UPAA, which is the owner, the co-owner of MLP and the PPA, seems to have much more further advancement compared to the USAP. So first of all, they have a different variant of deflection testing, and they have a better calibration in their testing versus the USAP. Another thing is they're now starting to do what we call destructive testing. Why is important destructive testing is because, remember last year, especially people that are using the Yola mod, those paddles can get hotter and hotter. And what's going on is we call the core corruption, or we call core crushing. So over time, those Gen 3 paddle, because of the foam and because of how they designed the inner core, the longer you play, just the harder that paddle hits. And that's the reason why that prompted the UPAA to do that we call it destructive testing. Means over time they're gonna take that paddle and then cut it up and make sure that that paddle is still at the spec that was in the legal limit. Which unfortunately USAP are planning to do it, but they don't have even any framework starting on there. So that's a little bit disappointing. They're still catching up, and they should be, since they have the regulatory body of all equipments, they should have taken that proactive action onto it. I'm pretty sure that they're already looking into it, but obviously think about it that way too. UPAA is a for-profit company versus USAP, a non-profit company. So that kind of also tells why they might be a little bit behind because of that.
Right on.
Now, One last thing about paddle. We'll call that the paddle matters. It's probably Andrew's going to be laughing. So we talk about it, right? I talk about Brad Chapman switching to a Selkirk Vanguard Pro, but he might be needing something stronger. Well, at the last PPA tournament in Tucson, we have a prime example of it. So people who follows the PPA, the #1 player in the world in single, Federico Stasgrud, signed. He was a Yola signed player. Now he's signed with Adidas. God know Adidas Plato are terrible. And there you go. Federico Stasgrud lost first round in singles. What is going on? And he was like, if you look at that match, he was cursing on that paddle. He was nonstop cursing that paddle. And then in mixed double, he lost with Catherine Perendo, which is the #2 player, like women's player from in the world, in quarterfinal. They never did that. They usually lose at least in the semifinal. They lost at quarterfinal. What is going on? And then I think and then in the men's double, he just even pull out. He's sitting in injury. A lot of people are saying probably he's frustrated with the paddle. So it's just like, nah, I'm not playing. I'm not playing with that paddle anymore. People that never use an Adidas paddle, I'm actually telling you, do not try to use an Adidas paddle. If first of all, it's gonna curse you, and you might curse at the paddle too, because it's not good at all. If you want to really use a Adidas paddle, just go to a Canadian Tire, buy the cheapest paddle possible. That's your Adidas paddle, basically. But Adidas selling at $230. That's the difference. So unless you have enough money to burn, go ahead. You can try it out. Other than that, I'm actually not suggesting you try to buy a Adidas paddle, please.
Oh my God. Well, that's to show if you take the money without testing if you take the paycheck without testing the product.
Well, I guess he got no choice too, because Federico Strasco was trying to have a signature paddle with Yola, but Yola didn't want it because Yola already have a lot of signed big pros, right? Adidas said, oh, I'm gonna give you a signature paddle. So, but
that's he could have got. I like, geez, go to Selkirk or go to, like, I don't know, Paddle Tech or whatever. Like, try one of the other ones that some of the other major pros are using. But yeah,
but then there's another reason too, because Fed is already sponsored by Adidas on shoes, right? So therefore, it kind of makes sense that they want to jump to the Adidas. But the problem is right now, Adidas still way behind in technology for their paddle, even though they have so much money they can burn in there. But and the problem is the history, right? The history of Adidas on rackets, like even tennis racket, they're, I'm sorry, trash, basically trash. So they never actually make good racket or paddle for so long. So that therefore, I don't know what's going on. Like, I just don't know. They have so much money. It's a big brand. They just can't do anything about it. I don't know why.
Oh man.
And one more thing I want to mention. So Dylan Fraser, who was the JW Johnson's partner, he was using Selkirk's, right? And for a long time, he was really good in singles and everything. But with his Selkirk paddle, he was using the Power Air. For a long time, he's not making any more to the medal rounds. He's not. His contract with Selkirk now is over, so he decided, I'm gonna change another paddle. Guess what? Which paddle he changed? The opposite of Federico. He went to this paddle, the Yola 3S Magnus. Guess what happened? He won. He won two bronze medal. In single, and he won in mix also. Paddle matters, people. Paddle matters. One last thing. I'm just saying one last thing. Okay. So one of my pickleball group, Treasure Stride, that he organized a Thursday group pickleball of our guys, and he actually do a good tracking of games won and and 0.1 per game. And he actually be able to realize the people that actually changed to a power paddle now has actually better ringing weight than what they had before. So that also shows you paddle matters.
That's why I use a combination paddle.
Or just like me, just have all the paddle on my wall.
Yeah, Vic will just tell you, I didn't like this swing. I'm going to do this one. That's why Vic brings 6 to the court.
10 last time, I think.
Oh, 10 last time. Oh, geez. Yep.
I think the ref was so annoyed. It just gave up.
Oh, God, that's awesome. All right. So that pretty much does it for this episode, guys. Anything coming up, Vic, that's in the next week?
Yo, so in the horizon, so there is a pickleball referee clinic in Leduc, Alberta. Well, we'll try to stick some information in there, so that if you're interested to become a pickleball referee, please attend this clinic. That will give you a little bit insight how you want to be a pickleball referee, how what does it entail, what's your responsibility. It's good. So Leduc, Alberta is basically in Edmonton, is in the south of Edmonton near the airport. So they're gonna be hosting this in March 1st to March 2nd. So far, I know they still have some spots, so therefore you can definitely reach out to them. The next big tournament that's coming in will be the Luck of the Irish in at race at Athletic. Yeah, that's gonna be on the second week of March, which is on the 14, 15, and 16. Obviously, this time they don't need to cap their participant because they have so many courts, and they're also gonna include singles in their competition this time. So I think their registration is already up in pickleball tournament, so you can already start registering if you want, and that's going to be one of the first Alberta sanctioned tournaments, so therefore all matches will be having referee.
Nice. Yeah, I wish I could go to that one. And the fact that someone is finally using the Rays Athletics properly.
Yeah. just too bad. Maybe more tournaments should be at Rays Athletic, or any other indoor facility like the EPC or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So that's it for this one. We will be coming back in about 2 weeks' time because we'll be reacting to whoever gets signed in the CNPL, and there'll probably be some more news coming down the pipeline as well. And we are working on something. We might have someone coming into our podcast to talk about, like, some stretches and stuff like that. It might be like a little weekly mini series. Not everything's not all I's are dotted and T's crossed yet, but we're really hopeful about this person coming in. So stay tuned for announcements with that. Other than that, we will see you guys in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. See you soon.